Going on out there, my threaded family, all the people who are out there as well, man. I am excited to be here. My name is Marcus Lloyd, and I get to be the CEO and founder of Threaded. And today is North Texas Giving Day. North Texas Giving Day. I know everybody is out there trying to get folks to give money today to engage. And there's a part of me that wants to kind of just be real cool about it. That wants to be kind of move in a little bit and kind of talk about things like to be real smooth about it. But at the end of the day, I think every organization today wants to put this connection of giving and funding financially to the forefront because so many of these organizations, Threaded included, are trying to do some amazing work out there. And at this particular time, you know what I mean? I get on the phone and engage with lots of different nonprofits. At this particular time, it's like people's finances are just struggling in nonprofit world. And it's funny to me, right? Because so much of the things that we see in our world that we don't want to see anymore, right? We go, gosh, I can't believe that there are people hungry. I can't believe that there are people being trafficked. I can't believe there's so much racial inequality, right? And the people who are doing that hard work in all of those areas, their organizations get the least amount of money. And those that are in some ways perpetrating a lot of the things that are keeping food from coming in, that are perpetrating and allowing for the kinds of things that are out there, they're making money hand over fist. And so today is one of those days that the organizations, particularly in North Texas, get together and they say, we want to encourage those who want to see a difference made, to see changes made in their community, in North Texas, from around the globe, wherever you are. If you want to see those differences made, then you've got to support those local organizations that are trying to make your your city, your community, your neighborhood a better place. And so that is what North Texas Giving Day is all about, is giving people an opportunity to fund so many of the nonprofits that are there. And I know people have big goals, you know what I mean? And it's hard to get those goals. Our goal is $20,000. We're 14% of the way. We'd love to get even more. But we're just really, at the end of the day, we want more people to know about Threaded, want to engage Threaded and talk about what Threaded does. And so if you've never engaged with Threaded before, I just let you know that Threaded is a biblical racial reconciliation and unity ministry, right? And many people, as they're engaging in this racial conversation, um, they do it in different ways. But with Threaded, we really want to put the gospel in the center of that. So all my believers out there that are like, man, I wish we could do something about this racial issue that are out there. I wish we could be able to help people understand more about racial inequalities and engage that. I wish we could help get marginalized communities the help that they need. That's the kind of thing that Threaded pushes people toward. We desire to help you, to come alongside you in that fight, in that effort, to want to see all those things happen. We want to be a resource for you, to help you inspire the relationships that people aren't in right now. To inspire people to go across these cultural and ethnic lines and actually start to build authentic relationships, right? Like authentic friendships and relationships, not this kumbaya stuff that's out there where people just go, hey, check out my Facebook friends. I got all these diverse friends. Not that. No, we want to inspire real relationships, and that requires time. It desires getting to know one another, hear each other's stories, right? And that's important. But we also want you to go beyond just the building of relationships in sort of the ancillary areas, but really go deep in dealing with and having authentic discussions about the things that are happening in our world. We call it reconciliatory conversations. When I'm talking reconciliatory conversations, I'm talking about what I think to be like intrinsically spiritual conversations, because for people to have conversations that truly go and work towards a kind of real reconciliation, there's got to be something supernatural that happens in you, right? It's got to be supernatural. It can't just be, I think this is a nice idea, but you have to have it be so uh, deep in your core that you can't stop doing it when it gets hard. Because that's what happens. This reconciliation conversation, it gets so hard, and people get to the point where it's just too much. I just got to step out. I got to take a, not even take a breather, but like I got to get out of this. And some people can do that with no consequences, but others, when that conversation stops, lives are on the line. And so we need to have real reconciliatory conversations where we're talking about the things, we're talking about inequalities in a real way. Right. And I know people are very nervous, right? When they hear the word inequalities, all of a sudden there's this clash that comes where people all of a sudden are going, well, you're a critical race theorist, so you're not enough of a critical race theorist. We're not talking about that. I don't need critical race theory to have any discussion on this conversation around reconciliation and inequalities. I don't need any of that. That's what I love about what I get to do at Threaded. The Bible has so much um, ammunition, if you will, for this conversation around building reconciliation and building relationships together. And so we function that way. We want to help people understand how to have those good reconciliatory conversations, not just with us, but like we train people to be able to go and have really good, productive, y'all hear me? Productive conversations around race, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's you want to start a courageous conversation group and you want to know how to do that, we help with that. If you're in a group setting where people are talking about it, you know how to maneuver through that, we train people to do that in that space. And then beyond that, we talked about this building relationships. We talked about having deep, true reconciliatory conversations. We also help people move into collaborative action in communities that have been ravaged by some of the historical racial stuff that have been in our communities. Like we want to see the church that is multi-ethnic. I'm talking, the different cultures collaborating together to go into the community and make change. And so that's where we're driving people. It is not just about the getting friendships and being done with it, or even having conversation, but it's really moving people to do the work in the community together. And we've seen so much of this work. And I know all day we've been having people come through here and tell stories about their engagement with Threaded, because we need people to know we're out here and all the different things that we do. And so I've given you some of the ways in which we help you to resource that kind of work: relationships, reconciliation, collaborative action. I want to bring in someone who's here with us today, who's part of our team, but also has a ministry of their own that they're doing, that we utilize as a tool and a resource to really help people, particularly my white brothers and sisters, get involved in this conversation in a way that is going to be loving and caring, but also have some truth telling as well. And so I want to bring on to this show with us to kind of tell a little bit about how she plays in this, Miss Shelly Park to the space. Shelly, how are you, my friend? Welcome to this North Texas Giving Day evening session of fundraising, getting people to give money to Threaded. How you doing?
Give money. I'm doing great. It's good to see you, Marcus.
Good to see you too. Okay, so Shelly, you and I, we met almost a year ago. I mean, like almost to the time in the space. And since then, you have not been able to get rid of me, right? Like you have been engaged in all stuff.
Is it that way, or you haven't been able to get rid of me? I'm not really sure how it's working.
Well, we can take it any way we want, I guess. But either way, we've been spending a lot of time together, and I'd love for the people to hear just a little bit about like how you got engaged with Threaded, what you do with Threaded, right? And then we can go from there. So, like, how did you engage in Threaded, and what do you get to do with us?
So, what my husband and I do, kind of as have been doing for several years, is teaching a class called Let's Talk Race.
Yeah.
And this class is specifically white people teaching white people about racism. My dad kind of created the curriculum, and in 2020, I after Tatiana was shot, I was like, I got to do something. And I followed a lot of people in social media that are in this work, and they said, white people, can you just start talking to other white people? We're tired of doing all the teaching. And we thought, hey, this is something we can do. And so we've started teaching this class, got connected with you guys a year ago, and that has we haven't been still since then. So but just trying to educate and specifically prepare white people to enter into conversations about race with grace, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good, and you said some real key terms in there, particularly when you just ended with was kind of this idea of grace. Do you find, I mean, as you've been engaging this conversation, that our white brothers and sisters are almost afraid to enter this conversation a bit because of some of the things they don't know? What do you think?
I think a lot of times we, as white people, we want to talk about it, right? Because we want to be able participants in this conversation, but we're afraid we're going to say something wrong. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
going to
get
use
you.
the word wrong, and I'm not going to be politically correct, and I'm going to hurt your feelings. And so there's kind of this pressure to do all the right things. And so this is Let's Talk Race is a place where we can come together and you can ask those hard questions, and from the research that we've done and the people that we've talked to, we are able to kind of step into that space and answer some of those questions about why people get so upset when I touch their hair, right? So we can talk about those kinds of things.
That is important. You got to let people know I got the long hair now. You know what I mean? I don't need people putting all little hands in my hair. I get that.
I'm
But
doing what I can.
well, what I like is, part of the reason why we have partnered with Let's Talk Race is to the point that you just said. One of our values is, we want to be a grace extending, because I do think that there's a lot of fear out there engaging the conversation. Um, and I'll say two sides, right? So to your point, you're like, hey, there's a lot of white people who are scared to get in the conversation. They want to make sure they don't say the wrong thing because the assumption is that there are people, particularly white people, who actually want to be in this conversation and do the work. They just got to have some confidence going into it, right? And I think from the other side, as a person of color in the midst of it, like there is a fear that if I get into the work with white people, they're going to say something to offend me, right? And so,
Right.
so part of what you're doing is preparing uh, white folks to go into a space with people of color with confidence that look. Let's just be clear: we're all going to say the wrong thing in this thing, no matter what. Like as a person of color, particularly a black man, I say the wrong things to my Latino friends sometimes, or my Asian friends. Like it's just gonna happen. And so
Right.
what you're doing, particularly talking to white people, is like I'm gonna prepare them to go into these spaces and feel more confident that they can have these conversations without immediately, offending folks. And then you're also kind of tangentially and maybe kind of as just a bonus, you are preparing a place for black people, Hispanic people, people of color, to find safety when they choose to get into this work too,
Right.
right?
Right. So when you walk into a journey group, right, with a threaded journey group, it's a multiracial group. And if white people don't understand the history and how race was constructed and the ways that we all, specifically white people, block conversations, the things that we say to try to end a conversation because we feel uncomfortable. If they don't know that, then they walk into that multiracial space. And like you said, they can say things that are triggering,
Mm.
exhausting, fragile, maybe. And so hopefully we're preparing people to be able to be really good participants in those conversations that are multiracial, multi-ethnic.
Yeah, and you mentioned because we talked about Threaded is a place that we want to resource folks. We want to help them again to inspire relationships, reconciliation, collaborative action. And so you mentioned Let's Talk Race, right? And you can find Let's Talk Race on our website, wearethreaded.org/groups. And when you were mentioning that, you mentioned the Journey curriculum, right? So Threaded is an organization that does quite a bit of things. But one of the things we're known for too is the curriculum it created called the Journey curriculum that pulls people together. This Let's Talk Race class that you created creates an opportunity, almost like a prerequisite that moves you along, right? So part of what we want to do is we want to, why we think Thread is important is we're not just stopping at the the education thing. We're not stopping just at the building relationships. We're moving people along a pathway. And so you're seeing even in this conversation is that there's a starter like, hey, let's do that. Let's talk race. And that'll be a prerequisite. Then there's a journey curriculum that gets you in connection with other people cross culturally. I think that's an important piece. So if you're out there and you're like, man, I want to participate with Threaded and engage with them beyond just the giving, like you can be a part of going through the groups that we have, right? The Let's Talk Race class and the Journey class. And that's one of the things that I think North Texas Giving Day is fun to do. It's this opportunity for people to kind of get out there and find out about these organizations and give to those organizations. And we want you to give for sure. And you can do that by going to wearethreaded.org/giving day. That's much easier than some of the links that we had earlier. So kudos, I'm sure, to Antoine for making this easier for everybody. Go to the wearethreaded.org/giving day, and you can give to make sure that we get down the road on our goals. We want to do $20,000. We are not at that goal yet, but we are moving towards that, and we want you to help. And we know we have those who have decided to give us some matching gifts as well, and so that helps. That $2,500 matching gift will help us to even put it. So if we have $2,500, we'll get $5,000 because we'll match it to that place. So make sure you go out and give for that. Now, Shelly, since you're here, because I like having you around. this conversation that we're in, not just you and I, but where Threaded is in, is not just something that Threaded participates in. It's not just about us. There is a movement that's happening really, and has been happening for a while in this space, right? Where people are trying to we'll use the language, are trying to weave people back
Mhm,
together
mhm.
across cultures. And I don't know, Shelly, are you familiar with the Mosaic Conference? Are you familiar
I
with that yet?
am. I'm so excited about the Mosaics conference. Anyone watching should sign up specifically for the virtual conference because I've heard that's going to be really exceptional.
That's right. The virtual conference is going to be really good. We've got the Mosaic Conference, which I don't know. You feel comfortable talking anything about the Mosaic Conference and what that is and what that looks like at all? I mean, just from what you
Sure.
understand it to be, and that'll give me a chance to give them their Mosaic link as well.
Mosaics conference happens every 3 years. This has been around for 15 or more years, and it's a group of people who are committed to planting and engaging multiracial, multi-ethnic churches and helping leaders, helping churches become multi-ethnic and multiracial. And so lots of really good tools. If you go to their website, the number of speakers is really exceptional and a lot of great folks that'll be adding to this conversation. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's right. And I love it. We talk about it, and we talked about it in the other ones that we've had during the day, is that this, people are learning again more about Threaded, but more about even the work that is out there that needs to be done, and the vast amount of folks who are out there doing it. Because I think some
Mhm.
people, when I tell them what I do, I'll be like on a plane, like I was flying here to Cleveland, and people on the, I'm always it's that weird thing. People are like, so what are you doing? You're like, well, I have a biblical racial reconciliation ministry unity, and they're like, oh, okay. I mean, is that a thing? You know what I mean? I'm going, yeah. It's like they don't want to talk about it, but it is a movement. It's something that's needed. And this Mosaic conference that we're doing November 8th through the 10th, and you can see the link there. That it's going to have like 100+ speakers there. It's not just for church leaders, right? Mosaic has a reputation of being like a multi-ethnic church planting organization, but all the other organizations, all the leaders, and all the people that are coming in are not just about planting multi-ethnic churches. They are about getting people in other things. They're helping people deal with contentious conversations. They're engaging in what is the idea of racial justice look like, right?
Mhm.
They're looking at the next generation, and how do we maintain the next generation in this, right? This really what I would call 21st century church engagement. And so it's not just for the leaders of churches, but it's what I would call influencers in churches, right? What's great about Threaded, I think, one of the things is, we work with organizations and we work with individuals who desire to want to be community weavers in their communities. So we engage, and we've got, things that we do, sit down and help create strategy around with churches and things of that nature. But we also try to resource those individuals that are out there doing it in somewhat they feel like they're on their own. We try to give them a place where they can find others who are like them, but also resource them to do the work. And Mosaic Conference, if you go to that conference, you're going to be resourced even more so, kind of that big drop of resources kind of in one space. So
Um,
I encourage people who's not just as church leaders, but just, as we say, regular church folk can go, and they're going to get a ton of ways how to do that. I mean, would you agree with that?
What a great networking opportunity. I love networking. It really speaks to my heart. So I'm excited about all the different kinds of people we'll get to meet and engage with. So
Yeah, and I think that's what, obviously going to conferences and things. That's one of the great things. I like that conference too because you do get to. It feels like a family. Like we only meet every 3 years, and so you come in, and there's all this time to just like sit around and meet people like yourself. Like sitting down, you hear like like I said, when I'm on the plane, I go, I got a racial reconciliation ministry. When you're there, you're like, hey, I got this racial reconciliation. They're like, so do I. Tell me what you're
yeah.
doing, right? Or like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to help my church move
Mhm.
down the road on this. Hey, let me help you what that is. And you mentioned the conference, the Mosaic conference, but you also mentioned the virtual space because there's a lot of folks who are maybe listening. I know there's folks giving for North Texas Giving Day, but some folks who are watching who are in different parts of the United States.
Right.
There's a virtual aspect, and here's what's great is all right, Shelly, when you go to a in-person conference, what are some things that you expect to experience when you go to those conferences?
I expect to get to meet lots of different kinds of people.
Uh huh.
I like going around and looking at all the booths and finding
Okay.
out what different kind of resources that are out there and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Uh,
Cool.
Conversations with people and just the idea of hearing different speakers that are doing different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And when I think about in person, I think of the same thing. But when I think about virtual, I do not think about
Mm-mm.
that. When I think about virtual, I just think about like I'm gonna be sitting at my desk watching a live stream, right? Like it's basically just like watching
And
TV. I feel so
let's be honest,
disconnected.
I'll be playing on my phone while I'm doing it.
That's right. I mean, what game? I mean, I don't, maybe I'll be playing my little solitaire or a poker game or something. It's listening kind of halfway. Um, what we're doing is like something that is. I don't want to. I don't want to oversell it, right? Because I would say it's revolutionary, but it's not revolutionary. But in the church conference world, people who have been hearing about this, who do conferences all the time, are like, "What are y'all doing? That sounds amazing. I'm going to come just to see it, so
Yeah.
that maybe we can replicate it down the road." We asked that question to a lot of folks, like what do they expect to see in person, and then what they expect to see virtual, and everything that you said happened. And so what we said is, what we're going to do? We're going to deliver on as much in the virtual as you would be to be able to deliver on the in person. And so we are creating a whole environment, a virtual environment, so that you can have a virtual experience where you literally can go into rooms and you can watch live stream video, or you can go into another room and you can have chats with people who are watching online. You can create your own groups with, if you're like a staff and maybe your staff is all over the country and you're all doing this virtual, you can create rooms where you guys can go in there, not just to do like a chat, but where you can pull up video and have conversation with your staff while you're there at the
That's
quote
awesome.
unquote virtual conference. It's going to be amazing and awesome. And then as far as vendors are concerned, the sponsors that we have, we're creating virtual booths that you can go in and you can see what the sponsors have available. You can set up times to chat with the folks who are a part of those booths if you want to.
Awesome.
You can download different discount coupons or documents that those at those booths and put them in a little swag bag. We're going to be trying to do that, and because everybody wants to kind of feel like they're there, we are actually going to be broadcasting from right inside the atrium of the in-person conference. People are going to be walking all around us. We're going to take the camera around through the atrium and talk to people who are there, other folks who are just like you, who are maybe either they're leaders in this or they're just lay folks. We're going to be doing all that, right? Now,
Great.
this kind of thing is exciting, but it costs money, right? Like all these things that we're trying to do cost money. And I feel like today is one of those days that you can actually talk to people about money because it's North Texas
Uh-huh.
Giving Day, right? And
Yeah.
so we want for us to be successful at creating these kinds of things, as well as even more things we're doing in the community, we need those support. And it doesn't have to be, Shelly, thousands and thousands of dollars, although we do not turn it down.
Right.
We're looking for, and here's the deal. I want people to give today for sure. But you know as well as I do, Shelly, like the work doesn't stop after today.
Mm-mm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's more to do. What we want people to give today. What we really want, if I can be just you and me, it's just you and me having a conversation. Nobody has to be
I'm
listening.
hearing. I'm listening.
Here's what I really want, Shelly. I want people who will decide to come alongside Threaded as a year-round supporter of any amount, right? That's what I want. I want them to go to wearethreaded.org/give and say, I want to be a recurring giver to Threaded, because it's one thing. I love getting stuff today. Like we go, hey, let's get $20,000. Fantastic. But one of the things that's even better for me and all other organizations, right, is if we know that every month the things that we're wanting to do is covered.
Yep.
We can just, it just gives us the flexibility, the freedom to just be going after the ministry like full on. We're always fundraising, but to be able to go full on at it, because we know we got the funds to do what we're trying to do. You're not questioning that,
Yeah.
right?
And I think
You know,
sometimes people think in order to give monthly, I have to give $500 monthly, right?
right.
I mean, anything monthly is great.
Yeah, it's a blessing to just see. And here's the deal: it is financial, but it's such a blessing to see names pop up, like names
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen before, or names that I know that say, "Hey, we love what you're doing, and we want to support it, even if it's $10. Like, hey, we're giving $10 a month. We just want to support it because we want to be with that support, the giving that you do on regular. You become a part of the Threaded family, and you're kept up to date on all the things that Threaded is experiencing and doing and trying to do. And you can, it sounds trite, but you can as a support, you get to get the inside information, and it tells you what you can pray for in the work that we're doing. Because I don't know, Shelly, is this work hard for you? Is this difficult for
I
you to
mean,
do?
it's, I'm not gonna lie, it's not a walk in the park.
I mean, like what? So, what are some of the difficulties of being in this work? I think it'll help people understand what
I
Thread is
think
trying to
it's
do.
hard, when people are not happy about what you're doing and
Mm,
they push back against it. That's tough. That's hard on the psyche. It kind of is discouraging, makes you want to never mind. It's also hard when people kind of move on and forget about it.
mm,
Like it's not in the news, so we're not thinking about it anymore. So we've moved on.
yeah,
That's discouraging. But
yeah.
but but the upsides, the watching God work and the Spirit work in people's lives, and that's just it's worth all of it.
Have
Worth
you had
all.
a kind of transformation yourself in this conversation? Like what was your transformation experience as you got into this?
Well, I took a class about civil rights in college, and so I thought I knew all there was to know uh, about what the whole conversation about race and stuff. And so the last several years have been very eye opening. As kind of my wake up moment was Philando Castile and Alton Sterling within days of each other, and I just started kind of listening and going, "Wow, I do not know all the things that I thought I knew." And
Mm,
yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and a calling straight from the Lord.
mm,
And Marcus, I feel deep down in my bones that there is something better on the other side of this work. That there
yeah,
is something when we are all together, like it says in Revelations, and we are worshiping the Lord. I think God wants that now, not just then. And I have, so that vision just keeps me going. That there's something so much better. It's going to be hard to get there. It's uncomfortable, specifically for those of us in the majority. It's hard, but there's something so much better on the other side, and I'm excited about it.
yeah. I'm with you. That's really the impetus, I think, for us, even the creation of Thread, is that we believe that God has actually orchestrated something even more glorious than what we're experiencing now.
Right.
In fact, we talk a lot about the vision of Threaded, and you can shut your ears, Shelly, because I'm about to give the vision piece. But um, you know years ago, my wife and I got to go to the Vatican. And if anybody's ever been to the Vatican, they just got all these different rooms there. You know what I mean? They've got rooms that for jewelry. They got rooms for like wardrobes that the popes have worn. Right? You got rooms with paintings on the wall, rooms with paintings on the ceiling. Right? The Sistine Chapel is there. And I remember we were walking through the Vatican, and we turned the corner, and we're looking down this long hallway. And down the hallway, they had like all of these beautifully intricate pictures, kind of hanging as you go down the hallway. And after being in all the rooms that I've been in, Shelley, I had seen so many paintings. I just thought, okay, it's just another room full of paintings, right? And as I started to walk down, I started to look a little closer at the painting to examine it, and I saw something I was not expecting to see. I saw these little colorful threads, and,
Mm.
and I realized that I wasn't looking at a painting, right? I was looking at a tapestry. We were in a tapestry room, and I'll never forget when I stepped back from these tapestries. I'm looking at this big piece of cloth woven together by thread, and the thought that came to my mind was this: it was like, who created this?
Mhm.
Right? Who is the artist that was able to kind of thread together these pieces of fabric? Who was that? Like, who was the artist that was able to envision these beautiful pictures, Shelley's, of landscapes and human beings and all kinds of different things? How were they able to see that picture in their head, get these disparate colorful threads, and like weave them together in such a way as to image this beautiful picture?
Yeah.
And for us as an organization, like the heart of where we are is we desire that when people outside of the church look at the church, that they would see the same thing, they would say the same thing, they would see us in all of our diversity. Right? We have political diversity, denominational, cultural, racial, all those things, but they would be so overcome when they see the beauty of our unity and the way that we partner together in the community. They would be prone to ask the question, who is the God that threaded these people together? And so that's a big function of what Thread is about, is we want to make God's name famous by imaging who he is correctly in the community. And we believe that to be that it's not as, if you can think about it in this way, those little pieces of thread um, are not they're not enjoying themselves as much as they would when they were woven together by other pieces of thread that play out into a big picture,
Mm.
because all they're doing is just a piece of thread. But if you put them all together, they make a picture, and now you have an experience like you had never experienced before. And I think that's what we're trying to help create here, even through Threaded, is to help people truly experience all that God has for us, and that is experienced through the collaboration and the diversity of people coming together across cultures and ethnicities and races, even to live life together and to understand that that's ultimately how God made us to be. Um, I'm here in Cleveland now, which is exciting. I'm loving being here. Hold up, I'm doing this real quick. Let me plug in. I'm in Cleveland right now, and I'm getting to speak at all these different places and talk about the work that Threaded is doing. And one of the things we're talking about, and I'll be talking about probably Saturday or so, is this idea of what we believe is the normal in our life as far as this is concerned is actually a product of the sinful nature,
Mhm.
right? This idea of all of us hanging out and kind of moving towards our comfort and our culture. It seems so natural to us. We're like, hey, this is what people do. You know what I mean? They like to be around people who are like them. They like to kind of hang with people who look like them. And we go, well, that's just the natural way of doing things. But it's actually not the natural state of the way humans are supposed to exist. When in the beginning of time, we had all the people and the animals like hanging out together, as far as what the scripture's saying, like, and everything was good. And at the end, in Revelation, it shows all the people and the creation hanging out together again. There's a great passage in Isaiah. It talks about that the wolves will lie down with the
Mhm.
sheep, that children will play near the den of vipers and not get harmed. Right.
Mm.
So actually, the natural is not the comfort. The natural is actually the collaborative. The natural is the integration, if you will, of all of
Yeah.
these people. That's what the natural state of where we're supposed to be
Mm.
is. And so my question is, what are we missing by leaning in and running towards the comfort and
Yeah.
ultimately the unnatural? What are we missing in that?
We're settling, right? We're settling for what's easy or what we've decided is easy, even though it's not best or how
That's
God.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so for us, I know as an org, like we are trying. I see Brian Colligan giving credit is a kingdom investment. That's right. For us, we are thinking about this not as a major on culture. It's not a major on making race an idol or anything. We're actually a kingdom based place. We are trying to actually to have everybody look beyond just their culture to something much bigger, in which they bring their culture to something bigger and make something better. It's not about jettisoning your culture and saying no. You just want us to assimilate into just this amalgam, this soup, if you will, this melting pot. No, it's about us really going. No, let's actually create the salad where all the pieces get to be experienced together, where you get to taste all the different stuff, and that our friend Sun Chan Ra talks about that what we do in America is we pour like ranch sauce all over that salad, so you're just tasting ranch. And he says, so get rid of the dressing. And I like Sun Chan. I the only say I would adjust, and I would say, no, don't get rid of the ranch. Just the sauce or the dressing has to be something that accentuates all of the pieces of the salad as opposed to covers it. And I think that dressing that accentuates it, that unifies all the pieces together, but accentuates that's Jesus Christ, right?
Okay.
Like that's ultimately, you're like, what is this
I
dressing?
was
What is
like,
this supposed
what
to
is he
be?
going to say? Yes. Good answer.
I don't know.
Jesus.
I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is Jesus Christ, and
Yes.
ultimately
I mean,
he did a reconciliation. You're in, okay.
I heard that. I
We are
heard,
a gospel. I don't know
I
if you
heard,
know this, but we are a gospel organization. When we talk about gospel, it's not just this idea of us reconciling to God, which is this individual thought process. But what Ephesians shows us is that yes, there is a reconciliation to God that we get to experience. But what he also shows us, and you can see this in Ephesians 2, you can see this in Ephesians 3, is that what ultimately from the very beginning, God has been creating a plan in which he was going to reconcile us to himself, but also reconcile people cross-culturally. He was going to reconcile Jews to Gentiles. That's an ethnic reconciliation that is bringing people together, right? And so the gospel that we're talking about is a more robust understanding that it's a full reconciliation of all of creation together amongst themselves, but with God as the unifying dressing, Shelley. The
Yeah, yeah,
dressing
yeah.
on top of this
Yeah,
diverse salad
it is.
is Jesus. He is the one that unites us together. Revelation 7:9 shows all the different tribes and tongues and nations. So you don't lose those, you keep those.
Yeah.
But they are wearing white robes. I'm not saying that you got to have white robes. They're wearing unified robes. They're waving palm branches in their hands. So they've got a unified tool that they're using to celebrate God. And they're shouting out, it says in a loud voice, and they're shouting this thing: salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. There's a unified message, there's a unified faith that is in diversity. It's diversity in unity, unity in diversity. Who does that sound like, Shelley? The Trinity.
The Trinity.
Father, Son. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Oh, very good answer. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all there.
Another thing it reminds me of is Jesus's prayer, where he's saying, I'm praying that they will all be one, right? And then
Yeah,
the world will know that you sent me. And so I
absolutely.
think we are muting that message with our by being separate.
Absolutely. That John 17, 20, 21. Our unity is our biggest draw
Right.
to who God is, the truth of who God is. And so if you guys want to, again, if that's interesting to you, if you're like, man, I'm just like, I'm dug in now, Marcus. You got me all hot and bothered in a good way, a Jesus way, a spirit of God way. I'm like, if you're feeling that, then be a partner with us. Come alongside us. Today for sure, we want you to give to Threaded. It's North Texas Giving Day. wearethreaded.org/giving day. But here's the next thing you can do. Don't just, give for sure. Tell other people about the organization. Share this video right now. Go to your spots and just click share. That's all you have to do. And put, hey, this ministry is awesome. Check it out for all your networks. If you're here, I see you guys listening right now. Every single one of you, go to your share button and push share. But don't just push share, push write a post. And then you say, I just heard about this amazing organization. You guys should check it out and send it. That's your job right now. If you can't give, because you may be like, man, I already gave to y'all, or I don't know if I can give, whatever. You can give the blessing of your network. Let them know who Threaded is and why you need to be a part of it. So, but if you can't give, wearethreaded.org/giving day. And if you want to be with us long term, be on the giving day, just go to wearethreaded.org/give and become a recurring supporting giver of who Threaded is. We've got lots of things that we do. We are educating people. We are training folks. We are designing resources and curriculum. We are connecting people across different spaces. We are helping lead people into community engagement and organization. So become a part of that for sure. And as we said before, there's just lots going on. So make sure that you become a part of our Threaded team and our Threaded family. Shelley, it's good to have you with us here
It's good to
on
be
this
here.
time. Our last one of the day. I feel like I want to jump through the screen and grab people and go, hey, tell everybody about it, because we are trying for sure to make sure that we are doing this last push to get folks to give. $20,000 is what our goal is. We're 14% of the way. We're not discouraged by
It's
that.
good.
We know that this is a difficult space for people to work in, but we know that there's also folks who are ready to give. We saw Black Lives Matter create, they got millions of dollars that came into them. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm not like people like you just said Black Lives Matter. Are you supported? What? I'm just telling you that there's organizations and folks out there that are trying to do work and getting the word out about the differentiation of the things that are going on in our communities. And people are giving millions of dollars. And you see that sometimes people, when you give that millions, if they don't have a gospel-centered space, sometimes they don't know what to do with that money in ways that are going to push the envelope down the way. We are driven by a gospel that is all about trying to get people to come together cross-culturally to do good for others. We have a great board that oversees all of the finances that we do. We also have an advisory board full of leaders, ministry leaders, pastors, some business folks as well. Shelley, you're part of that advisory board. I mean, is that how has that been? You just kind of jumped in with us not too long ago. Has that
I
been helpful?
Yeah, it's great. It's been a really neat opportunity to get to know new people and really talk. I could talk about this kind of thing all day long. So having people that will engage that conversation has been a real blessing. So
Yeah, and it's helpful for us because that advisory board helps us to even put together some of our language, right? To helps us, hey, when we're talking about, hey, we want to get involved in this, they go, hey, does that really work together with the vision of Threaded, right? Does that work together with our mission to inspire relationships, reconciliation, collaborative action? Does that work together with our values, right? We are a kingdom oriented space. We are recognizing that the kingdom of God is a multi-ethnic kingdom. Does that work towards that? Does that work towards our value of being confessional conversations, or the value of grace extending, which we talked about a while ago? Does that work towards our value of contentious, courageous contending, right? Contending for others in the midst of the conversation, and our value of being rejoiced always, right? Where we're looking for the positive things that we can find in this conversation, because people respond to hope. And so we want to tell stories. We want to bring people in front of folks where you can find hope in this conversation, because it's one of those ones, Shelly. Again, I don't know if you're like this, but you get discouraged. You're like, I don't know if this is ever going to change, right? I don't know if it's ever going to change. But you and I, we see them. We see stories. You see them in your Let's Talk Race class. People
Yep.
getting that light coming on, right? Where they go, aha. I see them. We had some stories. If you weren't with us for some of the other lives we did today, go back and check them out. We had some great stories. Particularly, I was in the first one. Antoine did the second. I wasn't there, so it was probably good. But the first
He
one,
did
we were
good.
both
He
there.
did good.
They did great, great, great.
Yeah.
The stories that were there, people who've been transformed just by this conversation, is just amazing, amazing to see. And we want to see more and more of those stories of hope, because we believe that this can be turned around. It doesn't have to go down the road that everybody's saying. There are organizations, there are people, there are passionate people out there desirous to see the community woven together through unity. And we believe that unifying peace is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, again, if you're out there going, man, people are making an idol out of this race, it's all about race. We think race is an important thing to talk about, but we believe that without the gospel, it's difficult. Without that unifying peace, the church is positioned perfectly to engage this conversation and to create a model for what unity, cultural and diverse unity, looks like for the world to see. We are not taking advantage of that. We want to help churches learn how to do that. We want to help individuals engage. If you're a church leader, we go into churches and we walk them through strategic ways to start to build their congregation, moving this direction. Or if you're like the church we're working with here in Cleveland, when you're wanting to create a multi-ethnic church, we help build the strategy and some foundational pieces so that that church stays on track, stays on target for what they're trying to do in multi-ethnic conversations. And then also there's ways in which we are helping bring communities together. I can't talk about this thing we're working on right now because it's official but not official. But let me just say that there are two sides of a particular area to this east and west, where it's black and white, or white and Hispanic, whatever, the poor and rich. We are we are taking something horrible that happened in a particular city, a racist thing, an act of vandalism that was telling that they didn't want to have black people in the space. We are taking that and we are helping the city flip that to actually something very positive, and something that is color people of color affirming, but it's bringing these areas, these parts of the city together in ways they hadn't been brought together. We love it. That's just, it's like exciting stuff. But man, hey, this has been fun. I know, Shelly, I told you you're gonna come on here for like 5 minutes. It's like you've been here for like 40,
Yeah.
which is all right because I like hanging out. I know that you have sent your children off to college. You're
I
just
have.
sitting, you're just sitting in your house crying, sad.
Yeah.
You were just gonna sit and watch TV for this last 40 minutes, crying into a glass of wine or something. So I
Yes,
wanted to help
exactly.
you
Thank
have a good
you
time.
so
Yeah,
much.
this is what I do for you, Shelly. You know what I mean? I'm a giver. I'm always trying to give, to bring things along. Speaking of giving, just as a final thing, don't forget that today is North Texas Giving Day. And if you have not given, please jump in with Threaded. We are threaded.org/giving day. You can go there. Any amount is good. We love the kind of money that jingles, but we prefer the kind that folds, right? And you don't have to give cash. You can go in there and you can just swipe your little credit card, give to the organization so that we can continue to move along this work and to really help the church be a key participant in weaving this community together back to itself, and bringing the truth in the light of what it looks like to be a multi-ethnic world. This diversity is coming and growing in that. So glad you're here, Shelly. Glad everybody who's been around. Thank you so much for this last live. If you didn't see the others, go back, check them out, and share what Thread is doing, and give today for North Texas
Okay.
Giving Day. We're so grateful you guys are here, and we'll see you. Let's get this goal together. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shelly. We'll see y'all later.